So now let's talk about smart object and how to use them to duplicate layers. It will be very important to understand that, and once you do, you will see how powerful is Adobe Photoshop to create an animation. So first of all, let's create a new project. Go to File, New, and set the document type to film and video, the width and height to this one, and resolution is okay. Then just click Create. Then right here, choose Create Video Timeline, and you can press Ctrl 0 on your keyboard in order to get back to the full screen. Zoom in the timeline until you see the 10 and 20 frames. Right there, okay? And now let's draw a little square. Okay, make the fill to here and just draw a square like that. Hold Shift and Alt in your keyboard, and this is a little square. So a square like this size will be fine. Position it right here, okay, to a place like this. Now I will give you a quick challenge. Can you make this square move from this direction to this direction and rotate at the middle? Okay, I hope you can do that. If not, just follow me. Right click at the rectangle. We need to convert it to a smart object. Okay, then right here add a transform keyframe. Then after 20 frames add another one, and at that keyframe, the last keyframe, move the square to that position. So I can assume that you know how to do that by now. Now at the middle, at 10 frames, add a transform keyframe, press Ctrl T, and let's add 180-degree rotation. Okay, angle like that. Save changes, and you can see I have a rotation. Now I will add the physics effects between these three keyframes. So right before the rotation, right there, add a keyframe, then drag that keyframe back, and do the same thing here. Just before the square land, add a keyframe and drag that keyframe back, and you can see it will give it a nice bounce effect or something like that. Fantastic. And by now you should know those things from the previous lectures. So now let's talk about the smart object. Just imagine that you need to shape a large rectangle from these little squares. So this square will come from here and stop right here. Then another square will come from right above it and stick above the first square, and do that in sequence, so all these little squares will shape a large rectangle. So it doesn't make sense that you will repeat all these keyframes and do all this animation and again and again. That will take a lot of time, especially if this animation is complex or you want to change the color of them, or maybe they are not squares, another complex shape. So it will be very hard and it will take a lot of time to do that manually. So obviously I need to duplicate this square. So let's see how can we duplicate it. First of all, let's use Ctrl G or Command G if you have a Mac to duplicate it. So move the index to this position here, press Ctrl G, and let's see the animation options. You can see there's no keyframes. So obviously you cannot use this way to duplicate your square and still have the animation, which what we want. So just delete that and let's try another way. So select the layer at the layer box, right click at it and choose duplicate. And that will not be the same result, but it will not be the result we want. And let's see now this one. We have the animation. And you can see now there is two squares that moving above each other, so you can only see one. What if I move one of them? So go to the first keyframe right here and just move the square. Oh, I have a square now. Now, do this square will come to this position here? Let's see that. No, it will get back to the first direction. And the reason of that, because I just changed one keyframe only. I need to change all of them. Okay, so that doesn't make sense. So this is not the way to how to do it. So just delete that one. The right way to do it is to convert it to a smart object, but that will come with a little issue which we will fix. So let's go ahead and convert this to a smart object. Converting it to a smart object will restrain all these keyframes inside the layer. So there will be no keyframes, but the animation will still inside the layer. So go ahead and right click and change it to a smart object again. Convert it to a smart object. Okay, now you can see there's no keyframes. Now, do we have the animation? Oh, we don't. So what is happening there? What is happening if I asked you now, what is the size of this layer? The size of this layer, you can see that by pressing Ctrl T. Now the size of this layer is that little square there. Okay, so delete that. Now the size of animation is from here to here. So the size of the animation is bigger than the size of the layer, so the animation will not appear. That is the reason of why the animation didn't appear. And we can fix that very easily. So use the history box and just undo that last move. And now let's use what I called the fix size layer. So right underneath the rectangle, which we want to convert it to a smart object, add a new layer. Now this layer is empty now. Okay, so just fill it with any color like that. I will choose an obvious color like black. Just one click and you can see it has just a black color that fill the layer. Now what if I ask you what is the size of this layer? You can call it fixed size for now if you want. Okay, so what is the size of this layer? To see that, press Ctrl T in your keyboard and you can see the size of it is the size of the screen. So that is very good because wherever this square will move, it will be contained by the size of this layer. Okay, so now I don't want that black color, so all what I need to do is to make the opacity of the size of the fixed size layer to 0. Now the layer is still there and it's still full screen, but it not appear because the opacity is 0. So now let's convert this to a smart object. We will convert both of them to a smart object. So hold Command if you have a Mac, or Control if you have a window, and select both of the fixed size and the rectangle layer. Okay, right click, then choose Convert to a smart object. Now let's see, we have the animation. Okay, now what is the size of this layer? Is the size of both layers, the fixed size and the rectangle. So this is amazing now, because we have this layer now without keyframes and still have the animation. Now we can see the potential of that now. Let's duplicate this layer. So I will hold Ctrl 0 to get back to full screen again. Press Ctrl G in your keyboard right there, and you can now move the copied rectangle just above the first one, and you can see I have 2 squares. Want to have 3? Press Ctrl G and just move it to here, and you have 3. You can select both of them and just move them down if you want, and they will still have the same animation. Fantastic. You can change the colors of them. So this is the above one. You can double click there and go to color overlay and choose like yellow color, and go to the second one, double click and choose another color overlay, and let's select a red color, then press OK, and they will have the same animation. So now let's have some fun with them, and let's try to make them start moving in different times. So select this one and just drag it a little bit forward and do the same thing here. Okay, fantastic. You can see what we did. It's very easy and it will have a very nice animation. You can change even the drop shadow, whatever you want. Now what if you want this animation, once it stops right there, other squares will come from the opposite direction. Okay, so I can now convert all of them to a smart object. So hold Shift in your keyboard and select all these squares like that. Then right click and choose Convert to a smart object. Now I have these 3 squares animation. Now once they stop right there, press Ctrl G. Now you will have the same animation coming again. Now what I want to do is press Ctrl T in your keyboard and right click, then choose flip horizontally. Okay, now you can see what will happen, that they will come from the opposite direction and they will have the same animation. That's cool. And you can change the color, but not from color overlay this time. You should go to image adjustment and choose hue saturation and just move this inductor until you pick a nice color. So it's something like that. Then you can see still have the animation, and you can see the potential of all of this. You can now convert those two to a smart object again if you want, I mean. And you can see I will just press right here, go Control G and press Control T for the new layer and just make it smaller. And you can see now we have a small animation from the same squares. So what I want to say here is that you can do whatever you want with these squares and you still have the animation. You can even add new keyframes if you want, and this will have a huge impact in how to use animation in Adobe Photoshop, and you will see that during this course for sure. So thank you for watching this. In the next lecture you will learn about layer mask and you will finish your introduction section. Thank you for watching.